everyone. Morning, Nina. Morning, Shanti. Hello, Sita. Morning, Sita. Gabby. Morning for most of you. Sawadika, good
morning.
Good afternoon, Sarah.
Hi, Betty.
Sawadika.
Sawadika. Hi, Maeve. Hi. Hello, Lena. Glad you could join. How are you? I can't hear you, Lena. You need to unmute.
Hello. Hi.
Good to meet you. Glad you could join us.
Yes,
And
thank you so much.
you can see Chanti and Nina and other friends you've been chatting with, and Maeve. Maeve, Lena has recently joined us on DSG. She lives in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So nice to meet all of you. Thank you, Nina. So lovely to see you in person. So privileged and blessed to see you in person. I'm a big fan of yours, reading your books over decades. So grateful to actually meet you in person.
But I come here to learn more.
Oh,
Not
that
just
is your
theory, not just
that is your
theory.
that's your magnanimity. That's your humbleness and humility and magnanimity. You know, you teach us. We learn from you.
Sawadika.
Sawadika, Ajahn. How are you?
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์ครับ
Ajahn, I want to briefly introduce you to Lena, who has joined us for the first time. Lena lives in Melbourne in Australia, and she's been reading and listening for some time, but this is her first time to join us.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Shall we start? Queen Sarah, please.
Does anyone have anything they would like to start with? Perhaps Nina usually has something she would like to start with.
I can start something, yes, because when I start, and the others will come too with their questions. We talked a lot about the three phases of understanding: pariyati, intellectual understanding, and patipati, that is more the direct understanding, and pativeda, the direct realization by the stages of insight and enlightenment. Now, the pariyati, the intellectual understanding, has to be firm and firm, but nobody can do anything. It's by conditions. So people will wonder how to become firm, because if there is a wish, there is attachment, and that doesn't work. But Ajahn will always encourage us to listen again and again, like about seeing, that chitta that sees is a moment of experiencing the object that is seen, and we can't hear that enough. And it is only one moment, it does not stay on, and this is the way. But I was wondering, when we are in constant pain, it's really hard to listen. And we can all come into that situation by an accident. But even that pain is not lasting. But I can understand that it is very difficult to realize that when there is severe pain, that it is not lasting, that it is only a moment. And I think it can be helpful for all of us if Ajahn can talk more on this aspect of constant pain and still be able to listen and develop understanding.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay. What's the question again, please?
when one is in constant pain, pain seems to last. We know it doesn't last, it's only a moment, but it is really difficult to realize that and to keep on having more developing understanding. And we can all come in such a situation by an accident or whatever happens by conditions in life. And I think it's helpful if Ajahn can talk a bit more or elaborate on being in constant severe pain, but still be able to listen and develop understanding.
I think that everyone is interested after hearing or reading the words of the Buddha about the truth. Because you see that even we talk about seeing, hearing, it's just the word. But in fact, seeing sees now, not the word. But how can we explain the moment when what is there as not self? Because seeing is that which sees. Each word should be considered to understand the truth, just the truth. Without understanding, there can be only thinking about it, ignorance about the truth, even what is there. So, in order to really understand what is meant by the truth, there must be a reality appearing. So, everyone say, is it true that they are seeing right now? Everyone say, right, seeing is now seeing. Seeing is now seeing. That is not enough. It means that seeing is conditioned to arise, to be seeing, not hearing, not other thing else at all. So the truth is so the very absolute truth. Seeing is there now. Where am I? Seeing sees at that very moment. Just consider what it said carefully to really understand how much ignorance about we just talk about everything arises and falls away. Only everything. But what about seeing right now? Does it arise and falls away? It's so true. Can the truth be known? Because before seeing, there is no seeing. And then there is seeing, and then there's hearing. So at moment of hearing, there's no seeing. Just understand the truth little by little to have more understanding, firmer and firmer, that seeing cannot be taken for anything because actually it's gone forever, never to return. And since this is so true, so it can be moment of experiencing the nature of that which arises and falls away. To know that it's so true, not just thinking that it's so true, but actually it's so true right now. That can be moment of penetrating the truth little by little to understand one moment, one reality at a time. Otherwise, when we think about many things, it's only the idea about that which sees now. Only the idea, it arises, it sees. This is the idea. But what about the moment when only that reality arises by conditions? No one can make it arise at all. And having more confidence of the truth, it will condition more and more understanding of the truth as it is, little by little, stage by stage, from very firm understanding of the truth of what is there now, until there can be moment that Buddha taught about. When right understanding develop enough, it can understand that which now is not understood because not enough condition to be such. But when there's more understanding, it's time to understand it. To understand the truth is not just thinking about it or talking about it, but when it's there and the understanding begin, just begin not to forget about the truth of it. That's why it has to develop very little at a time. So very, very little, because ignorance of it and just think about other things, or even just thinking about it is there. Not the moment when it's directly known with direct awareness. So no one understands what it means by direct awareness, direct understanding, and no one can think what is awareness by oneself when there's no hearing more, considering more about the reality, which is different. Seeing is not awareness. Thinking is not awareness. Ignorance is not right understanding. Just develop the understanding or listen to have more understanding of the truth. And the truth will develop on and on and on until it can understand what is meant by awareness and what is meant by direct awareness. Without understanding, it's just the room. But when there is the understanding of the difference between right understanding and awareness and other reality in a day, that it can condition moment of not forgetting about the characteristic which now is appearing. Hardness is there, no understanding of its truth. Thinking is there, no understanding of its truth. Whatever in a day, in life, is not understood as it is until hearing the word about the truth of it. And then understanding begins to develop and let go wrong understanding of it as I see, I hear, and I think. That's all, little by little. Just talk about the truth to understand the truth. As in truth, no one, no me, no thing. Is this more considered to understand the truth, to have firm confidence? Without firm confidence of the truth, there cannot be conditions for directly understand what is there now as it is. We just talk about it's there, and it can be directly understood as it is. But what conditions that moment to arise, to understand the truth of it right now? There must be conditions for that very moment too. And it is only having more understanding of what is there to condition firm confidence of no one. That's all. Because actually the absolute truth is no one and nothing at all. What is now appearing is conditioned to arise, to be the object of seeing, hearing, so on, and then gone. So when it's not there, it has gone. Absolutely. Never to return, only once in samsara. And usually it's forgotten. Like this morning, what happened? Who remember? The food is very delicious. Who remember? Pleasant sound, and not now. So it's gone, the moment of hearing, the pleasant sound. Everything is just like that, as it is. But no understanding of the truth that actually it cannot be taken for anything at all, because in truth it's gone as soon as it has arisen. Is it true? Just develop the understanding, and this is the moment of letting go ignorance and wrong understanding and attachment to that which is no more, completely gone. Just understanding, and this is the way understanding develops by itself, by conditions.
And Nina, I think what you've asked about of being in constant severe pain is really a situation, isn't it? And I think we can all think of situations where the development of understanding and awareness may not come so readily as at other times, whether it's being very agitated or severe illness or being depressed or stressed. But as we know, and as we remind ourselves from time to time, the truths that were taught by the Buddha are universal truths. So they apply regardless of the situation, and they apply regardless of the time also. Some people have difficulty relating what was taught 2,500 years ago, or seeing that what was taught 2,500 years ago is applicable today, because they don't appreciate that the realities are the same today as 2,500 years ago. And so once there is the confidence that it's not a matter of situation, but of the underlying realities, I think that having that reminder makes it possible not to be caught up in the situation, but to remember that the realities are the same regardless of the situation. And so there can be the confidence that awareness and understanding continues to develop, even in the most adverse, in inverted commas, of situations.
And usually we think a lot about the sickness and the pain because it conditions unpleasant feeling, and it's not something that we like at all, and it seems to last because there's dwelling on it all the time. But actually, as we know, there are just different dhammas arising and falling away, moments of bodily painful feeling, and then a lot of thinking about it. And as we discussed last time, as John was talking about last time, the real sickness is the sickness of the ignorance and clinging. And the Buddha prescribed the best medicine for the real underlying sickness. And the only medicine is the understanding that these are just different dhammas, not my pain, not my pleasant feeling, just different dhammas that arise and fall away. And it's only the medicine that the Buddha prescribed, the development of understanding and other wholesome factors, that can really cure the real underlying cause, that clinging to self, the ignorance about the truth of life now. So this is what we are considering, is what is the truth now? What is the reality? So when it seems that the pain lasts, actually it's just thinking about it, because just as the pleasant feeling doesn't last at all, so the unpleasant feeling doesn't last at all. It arises for a moment and it's gone. But there's thinking, obsessing about it again and again. And we don't know what will come in life. For some people, there's a lot more painful feeling than for others. But what arises is conditioned. It can't be any other way. But the cause of the real problems is the clinging to the self and the ignorance about the truth of what is appearing right now. And as Jonathan suggested, we think about a situation of my body in constant pain, or my difficulties, or the floods, or the war, or the COVID, one drama after another. But actually now there are just 6 worlds. There's just the world of through the eye sense, ear sense, nose, tongue, body sense, and the thinking about what has been seen and heard. If there's no thinking about my painful body, where is it? If there's no thinking about the war in Ukraine, where is it? So we live in the world of concepts and fantasies, taking what is unreal for being real all the time.
Actually, I have discussion with my father about doctor, like physically doctor anyone could be, but mentally doctor is only Buddha, because all the teachings.
Right. So this is why we study the Buddha's teachings, because only the Buddha and his teachings can really cure the real sickness in life. Good to see you again.
Could I ask Sarah, how would you put into words the reality of thinking? Because we're talking about concepts, but thinking is also a reality in some aspect.
The thinking is real. The chittas that think again and again and again, and the mental factors that accompany the chitta, especially vitakka, for example, which touches on the object, and the sanya, which remembers the object, the idea. These are realities arising and falling away. But the concepts, the ideas, the war in Ukraine, my painful body, my difficult situations, these are ideas. They're thought about, but not real.
Sorry. So you're talking about the Chaitasikas. You said Sanya, Vitaka. Can't remember which other one, but there's not.
Right. For example, without the sanya marking what is seen, what is heard, there couldn't be the vitaka touching the different objects that are thought about. So sanya plays a very key role, and the vitaka plays a very key role in the thinking about different ideas, no matter it's Ukraine or COVID or my body. So many constantly different moments of thinking and different Chaitasikas.
But these Chaitasikas don't necessarily appear. What does appear is the act of thinking, which is mental activity, isn't it? Processing different ideas and concepts. So
well, that's what I'm asking. Yes. What
yes.
could you elaborate a little bit?
Mm-hmm. So there's thinking is a very general term. So there's no specific class of consciousness in the teachings that is thinking, as opposed to, I don't know, some other kind of mental activity. But any experiencing by the mind that is not the experiencing of a reality, that is to say, a sensed or object, visible object, sound, and so forth. But that is the processing, if you like, of what has been experienced through the sense doors. We can use the generic term thinking, but that kind of thinking is also not readily apparent because it happens so instantaneously and intuitively. But there are stories running through our head all the time, aren't there? Stories about yesterday, about tomorrow, about the present moment, about what people are wearing today, or commenting on we're mentally commenting on things that are being experienced. That we can call thinking. It's mental activity. And we use the term thinking to generally describe that, but it's consciousness experiencing concepts. And regardless of the mental factors that may be arising together with the consciousness, what appears is that act of thinking, of musing, and the language of thinking is words or images. So we sometimes think in words and sometimes in terms of mental images.
And the words and the images are concepts, and the consciousness is reality, which can be chitta and chittasikas. Is that okay?
Well, the consciousness, as we learn, comprises chitta and cetasikas. But at the moment of just thinking about stories, the awareness is aware of the experiencing of stories. That's the characteristic of citta, that, and of cetasika also. They are the realities that experience an object.
I remember you saying, Jonathan, we shouldn't mind, I think you said, lacking behind, like forgetting. For example, with Vedana or akusala, time we're thinking about it, we're lacking behind the realities, and we shouldn't mind that. I'm not sure if I'm quoting it right, but I'd really love you to elaborate on the reality of not minding something. How could we
I think,
come
as
back to the
Ajahn
reality?
often explains, what appears has arisen already. So nothing can be done to change that. And everything that appears has already arisen and actually fallen away. So it can't be changed. And the path taught by the Buddha is the path of understanding the true nature of what is appearing at the present moment. And so regardless of whether it's good or bad or whatever, and whether it's weak or strong awareness or understanding, it doesn't matter. The point is that it is only that understanding, that is, of the true nature of what is appearing at the present moment, that leads to the eventual eradication of akusala, unwholesome mental states, and the cessation of dukkha, of the unsatisfactoriness of things.
As I remember last week, there was a question about feelings, and the point was being made that if one has a particular reality one would like to understand or be aware, and there are expectations, then it's a real hindrance to just understanding what appears and not minding what appears. No matter whether it's painful bodily feeling or happy feeling or seeing or visible object, the understanding can only ever understand what appears, not minding, not wishing, not expecting it to be another object. Otherwise, it's such a hindrance to developing understanding. If there's any idea of focusing or trying to pay attention or select an object, it's the opposite of not minding. So the point is not to attempt to be aware of vitakka or sanya or any reality, but just understand what appears now. And that's why the pariyatti understanding Nina was referring to has to be so firm, so that there's really firm confidence just to understand whatever appears without any minding, without any expectation. Otherwise, it's just all about me, what I would like to experience, what I would like not to experience, what I would like to get rid of. So it's different from the developing of understanding, which lets go of that minding or clinging to a particular object.
And the choosing can either be choosing the object, wanting to choose the object of awareness, or wanting certain realities like akusala, mental factors, not to arise, or wanting to have a greater level of awareness and understanding than naturally arises, or thinking that there should be more awareness and understanding in a day than there is. These are all different aspects of choosing or trying to direct or trying to control.
And one can see that they're actually all aspects of clinging to oneself, very deep-rooted and very strongly rooted.
I want to add to your points. When panya arises, it's unexpectedly arise, no selection at all. So when they say any selection is all akusala already.
That's a good summary. Because who is selecting, and is there the idea that when selecting that somehow I can choose, I can somehow condition what should appear like metta or sati. So behind it is the idea that I can somehow make the metta or the sati arise and stop the akusala arising. But as we know, all dhammas are conditioned. No one can make or select any reality to arise.
And that answers the question how intellectual understanding can be really firm so that a real confidence, because we are always wondering how can there be more confidence. Ajahn emphasizes a lot confidence.
And even when we think, how can there be more? How can there be, still it's the idea of I having more, not just the understanding of what appears. Sorry, Ajahn, I think you are about to.
And the idea, how can I be free from pain? But it's so human to wish for that, because it's so difficult to bear.
So that is the thinking at the moment, isn't it?
Yes.
That's the reality of that moment, wishing to be free from pain.
What about overwhelm?
It's just another situation, same realities, citta, cetasika, rupa, thinking, worrying, so forth. Just different thoughts and accompanied by different kinds of feeling and what we might call exasperation. But these different shades of dosa are just variations on a theme as far as realities are concerned, because it's the same reality or group of realities that is arising.
You would call it dosa, yes?
Dosa, yes. You're familiar with that one, right? Yeah.
Yes.
When we talk about being overwhelmed, isn't it dosa at those moments? Thinking that one can't go on, thinking it's too much,
Wishing the situation
wishing it were
different.
better, clinging to not having the pain. It's so natural, it has to be like that, but better to recognize the truth.
I'm happy that you're so clear both about it, because it's maybe the first time I've just got one clear word like dosa. Overwhelm is dosa. Yeah, it really sinks in at this moment. In a good
And
way.
if there wasn't strong clinging to the pleasant feeling and the healthy body, would there be the overwhelming and the dosa?
Sarah, I want to say, when like you said overwhelming is dosa, but I think overwhelm is lopa, I think so. I'm not sure, that's why I'm asking you like this.
I think they're talking about being overwhelmed with unpleasant feeling, not with pleasant feeling, when there's so much pain and one's thinking a lot about it and one feels so overwhelmed and so sad and depressed about it. When it's unpleasant feeling, it's dosa at those moments.
Feeling unable to cope with the situation.
But without the lobha, the second noble truth, there wouldn't be the dosa and the feeling overwhelmed. Yes. So in truth, no matter what the situation or the circumstance, just different cittas, cetasikas and rupas arising and falling away, no one there, no my body at all.
So it's not a matter of analyzing the overwhelm, the emotion, or finding its source, or considering how it came about, or thinking of ways to counteract it at all. The development of the path is just understanding, awareness and understanding of the reality.
And the point is, what about now? If there's no overwhelmed now, it can't be known. But what about at this moment? What about the seeing Ajahn mentioned, or the hearing right now? What about the attachment right now when things are going well and there's pleasant feeling? So the understanding always has to come back to this moment, not trying to work out what happened yesterday or what might happen tomorrow, but what about right now? Because if there's no feeling of being overwhelmed, no dosa now, it can't be known at this moment.
Can you want to talk about this?
Sorry, what was that comment, Hajin?
No, I asked Tana Chan, will she?
Oh, yes. Yes, okay, good. Ajahn, would you like to add some words on this topic? Thank you.
Just understand the moment now, because we just talk about many things. Is there any understanding that this moment is not me, it's no one? Because you see that we have overwhelmed on this and that, about this and that, with this and that. But at that very moment, we know when we are angry, what the characteristic of anger is, but it's me. So the point is that in the day, we see and we hear and we think. The reality which arises and see and think is not known as it is, because no understanding of the truth of what is that moment is only the moment of experiencing an object. Even at moment of liking something, it has to be the reality which experiences an object in its own way, its own function, its own characteristic. That's why when there's no understanding of the truth that actually what is there, just the moment of experiencing an object. So the truth is that why do we not understand the truth of whatever is there, even it is life or dislike, pain or pleasant feeling, because no understanding of the truth of what is there, no matter what, anger or pleasure. That is the reality which experiences an object in its own way or its own function or its own characteristic. We know that we like this so much, we like, but actually not understanding what we take for we, because it's only the reality which experiences an object. We can talk about it, different characteristics of different cetasikas, but in truth, it's all there here, vitaka and vichara and so on, but no understanding of the truth that it is a reality which arises and experiences in its own way. That's why the moment of developing the understanding of the truth of that which experiences, it is the moment to understand that no matter pleasure or unpleasant, like or dislike, it's only different reality which arises and experiences an object. We forgot about that. No matter it is like or dislike, it's that which arises and experiences an object. When there's more understanding of the reality which arises and experiences, there can be letting go, not understanding that as it's only the reality which experiences the object right then. So it's useless just to think that life has such characteristic and function, but the moment when it's there, it's that which experiences an object. To be familiar with the characteristic of the reality, which is classified widely as the reality which experiences an object and the reality which does not or cannot experience at all. And this is the moment of beginning to understand the truth of it is that which experience. So it's not me deeply in mind, beginning to let go the idea of self. Or that is hard, not my finger, not my leg. It's really hardness. It means that it's getting closer to the truth, that hardness is just hardness. And when we use the word hardness, even we don't say that it cannot experience. But the characteristic of hardness is that to be known. When it's hard, we don't have to say that it cannot experience an object, because the characteristic of hardness is that which does not experience anything at all. Just learn to be familiar with the characteristic which arises and experience, no matter in what way or what characteristic, no matter it is memory, sanya, or vedana, but it's the reality which at that very moment arising and experiencing an object. And that is the moment of understanding the truth. No matter what is there now or tomorrow, the characteristic appear all day, but not understanding that it's the reality which experiences an object or which cannot experience an object. That's why to let go the idea of self is to understand the characteristic of the reality which experiences nama, no matter what. When it appears, no one there at all. And rupa, that which cannot experience is there. But when it's there to be known directly, no word, because the understanding of the truth has been developed until the moment when it's there is known as it experiences, and that which cannot experience. But we don't have to say that. The characteristic of that shows up as it is, hardness. So how can it can be seen or touching or whatever? It's only that which is touched, but it's not the touching which experiences it right now. There must be nama and rupa, but no understanding of the nama as nama and the rupa as the rupa, because it's taken for something all the time. That's why to understand the truth of that which no matter what, like, dislike, vitaka, memory, feeling, or whatever, it is only that which experiences an object. If this is not known, then nama, rupa, paricheta, jnana cannot appear as it is. To be no one and no thing, only that which experiences with different characteristics and function, that's all. For example, there is liking, attachment now. Do we have to say out or to be a little gradually familiar with that characteristic as it is the reality which experiences the object in its own way? For now, there is hardness. And what about that which touch or experience there? It's there, unknown. So it's time to understand the characteristic of that which experiences, no matter what the object is, whether it's seeing or hearing, it experiences that which is seen and that which is heard. Touching now is not known, only hardness appears. But there must be the reality which experiences hardness. And so it's time to understand that little by little, that they are different. Hardness is not that which experiences. So hardness is there as the object. But that which experiences it is also there, but it's not known at all. So it conditioned the idea of I, with nobody there at all, no one, only the reality which experiences hardness, but it's not known as it's a reality which experiences hardness. So it's I there until there can be moment of understanding the characteristic which experiences an object little by little. So at moment of touching, There can be the understanding of either hardness or that which experiences it, different ones, by its characteristic, its nature. This is the way, this is the moment which right understanding develops to pay attention to that which experiences now, little by little, by conditions. Without the understanding of the difference between the two, how can there be the understanding of that which arises as experience and object from birth to death, non-stop, different ones, only once in samsara, right now? We used to think in words, but not used to understand the truth directly. That's why from hearing again and again and again, it can be a moment of thinking about it. Because in a day we think a lot about everything, but not the reality right now. Because of the accumulation in years and years ago, more strong to condition moment of forgetting about the truth of this moment until right understanding is strong enough and it let go wrong practice or what idea about I can do or something like that. And hearing on and on with wise considering, careful considering whether it's strong enough. And then it doesn't matter at all, depending on understanding what is there. Strong enough to understand that it's no one, only the conditioned reality from many, many conditions accumulated. All by accumulation, even seeing right now. And what is seen is also by accumulation and conditions. And this is life, life to life, depending on understanding of the truth, of no understanding at all. If there's no one enlightened the truth, how can there be the words of truth? So what we are hearing now is so true at different levels of understanding. And panya, right understanding, is not wrong. It's so truthful to the truth. How much understanding of what is there now after hearing again and again and again. And this is the accumulation of right understanding to get firmer and stronger enough to understand what appears because of the strong accumulation of akusala and ignorance, not understanding the truth of it. So it's time to think, to consider what is there from the words of the truth, from the Enlightened One. No one, see, again and again and again, the difference between stages of sati and panya, again and again and again. Like holding the knife's handle, who knows how much is thrown away? So very little, comparing to the accumulation of ignorance and akusala. So who knows that in a day there's moment of akusala more than moment of kusala. So how can it be developed so soon enough to realize the truth? It's not as soon as one wished or as one think. Because the more there is understanding, the more letting go of I, wanting or trying to do something. But the understanding of the conditions develop more and more and more. Even right now, just move one's hand, the way one sit, the way one walk, are conditioned by accumulation of conditions as vasana. That's why we can learn more and more about what is there now in a day to understand what is there tomorrow. Seeing, never be hearing. When it arises, it sees. And then gone, only that. So the most important thing, the best thing among all the conditioned realities is right understanding. It can understand that as it is. It has a reason, otherwise it's not there. And as soon it has a reason, it follows instantly. Who can stop the way it is? But learn to understand actually they are all dhammas, no one at all. And each dhamma has its own characteristic and its own function too. Just to arise to perform the function, to see, to hear, and then gone. And this is the moment of holding the knife's handle. No other way to make it run away.
Lena, I'm wondering if you have any comments or any questions or anything you would like to bring up at this point.
No, I'm just trying to listen and understand because, as I said, I normally have been trained in Theravada tradition, so we don't really kind of think about everything in terms of jittas arising in Kushla and Akushla, so I'm not really very well versed with Abhidhamma. And although I've been reading Nina's books and Bhikkhu Bodhi's lectures, so I'm just trying to get the viewpoint. And I think I was just trying to understand that we understand that it's the dhammas which are arising, it's all conditioned, that is not in our hands. And this is possibly because of our karmas, that conditioning is so powerful and the conditions are arising, causing certain things to be present. But when we say the dhammas are non-self, they are not because of this is not under our control. Is it just an intellect level that we keep on telling ourselves, so this depression is arising or this pain is arising? This is just a dhamma which is arising. I tell myself, okay, a dhamma is arising. So just keep on telling yourself it's just that intellect level, or you're actually able to experience that non-self when you go into deeper samadhis, because otherwise it's just like on intellectual level. And at times when the situation becomes very acute, then you tend to get overwhelmed because it's just saying, and if you keep on saying it daily, of course, it makes a lot of difference. But at the end of the day, it's just something which you're telling yourself, this is just a dhamma arising. This is not you. This is not self. We know it's impermanent because that is very clear to see. Impermanence is very clear to see, but anatta is not very clear to see. So it's always, it's just a dhamma arising, non-self, So how do we kind of penetrate, the Pativedana part? How do we actually penetrate the truth?
This is why I think that what is being discussed has to come back to this moment, because if we think about the pain that was being experienced yesterday and repeat, well, it's impermanent and not self, it doesn't actually help. It's just like repeating a mantra. But what about now? What about the seeing now? Can anyone make the seeing last? Can anyone make the seeing see a different visible object from that which is seen at this moment? Can you decide what is heard right now? Can you stop pleasant feeling arising at this moment when there is attachment or understanding? So the understanding has to be right now. So there can be a little more understanding now. Like Ajahn said, that the moments of seeing, the moments of hearing are just moments of experiencing. Where is the eye that can see or hear or feel pleasant or unpleasant? Only in the mind. So the seeing now is just a moment of experiencing that arises by its particular conditions and doesn't last at all. The hearing now just arises, hears the sound that is heard, and then it's gone. Now it's a different sound heard and another sound heard. So the hearing doesn't last for an instant, the seeing doesn't last for an instant, and no one can make them last longer. No one can stop them arising. And it's the same with thinking now, no matter now whether they're thinking about the sounds that are spoken, or thinking about the pain that was experienced yesterday, or thinking about the lunch we're going to eat today. It's just thinking which is conditioned. No one chooses what the thinking is going to think about. No one would ever choose to think about painful feeling. But when there are conditions to think about painful feeling, it thinks about it. No one chooses to think about the food when in the middle of a Dhamma discussion, but by conditions, thinking can think about anything at all. So right now, there can be a beginning of understanding that there are just those realities which experience an object, like the seeing and hearing and thinking, no one that experiences. And there are those realities that don't experience anything, like the visible object or the sound or the hardness. But they arise by their conditions and fall away. And when you say it's our karma, well, karma is just one condition. So the seeing now arises because a visible object has impinged on the eye sense, and because past karma conditioned that seeing. But the thinking about with the overwhelming feeling, the unpleasant feeling, this is not a result of karma. This is the habit, the accumulated tendency of thinking with attachment, thinking with ignorance, thinking with dosa. As Ajahn said, the akusala thinking is far, far more prevalent than the rare moments of understanding, because it's been accumulated and is so deeply rooted, and especially that strong clinging to the idea of self. So it has to be like that. No one can stop thinking about being overwhelmed or having unpleasant feeling or having strong attachment. But there can be a little more understanding at this moment. And it's the understanding now that begins to understand that whatever arises does so by conditions, not by my will. If it was by my will, there would never be painful feeling. There would never be overwhelming. So it shows how conditioned whatever arises now. And like now, at this moment, when you're smiling, pleasant feeling, even if you try to feel overwhelmed and have painful feeling at this moment, it would be impossible, because if there are no conditions for pain right now, or no conditions to have strong dosa, it won't arise. So gradually, by understanding at this moment, from hearing and considering and reflecting, the understanding begins to work its way little by little.
To respond specifically to your question, Leela, just sorry to interrupt, about is it just repeatedly telling oneself that it's just dhammas arising? Well, certainly not, because that would be a kind of practice, wouldn't it? That would be thinking the idea that by doing this, there will be a condition for awareness and understanding to arise. But that is not the Buddha's teaching. His teaching is that awareness and understanding arise by conditions that are unknown to us. And so continually giving oneself these kind of reminders is not a condition for awareness and understanding to arise naturally. It is rather motivated, because it's not natural conduct for us, right? To keep saying that. It must be motivated by a hidden wish for more awareness and understanding. So we just, there's no sort of practice of any kind to be done. This is the one of the difficult things to accept about the Buddha's teaching, because it's so subtle. All realities are conditioned, including understanding, and they all arise and fall away momentarily. So there's no need to try to conduce awareness and understanding to arise. The conditions for its arising include reflecting on the teachings of the Buddha, that is, reflecting on his description of the way things are, in truth and reality. But again, that reflection is reflection that happens naturally by virtue of having heard a description of the Dhamma, of the way things are, and it, because of one's interest, it conditions the reflecting, the thinking, which we were talking about earlier, that can occur at any time, not just at the time of listening, but later during the day when one is going about one's daily activities. That is, there may be reflection, useful reflection at that time, not because one deliberately chooses to do so, but because it happens by conditions.
Thanks for that, John. Just taking it a bit further, if everything, the awareness and understanding is also conditioned, so suppose one really wants to penetrate Dhamma and one is not conditioned to understand it, the conditions are not ripe, he cannot actually penetrate the Dhamma, he cannot actually understand the Dhamma, then he cannot actually progress further. And that possibly depends on his karmas. So where does the virya fit into it? So I want to understand Dhamma because this is conditioned, you know, in my past lifetimes, or I had exposure to Dhamma, I had suffering this lifetime, so I went towards Dhamma. So if somebody, is not really conditioned to receive Dhamma teachings, conditions are not ripe, what can he or she do so that, they walk the path? Because they're not conditioned to receive it. They would never be aware. They would just live their mundane life and just, die.
Well, not so, because
maybe
even living a mundane life, there can be hearing, or one can come across the Buddha's teaching from whatever source. One can come across a description of the way things actually are in truth and reality. Not because one is specifically looking for it, but one hears about this or that, or one meets someone, or one comes across a book, or I think that is how it happens, by conditions also. Those conditions do not include that I must, I want to know more, I think I should know more. It's a fine line, but we cannot make the association, the connection with the Dhamma. We cannot make it happen. It will happen if there are conditions for it to happen. So that's how things work.
What is the role of virya in this? Suppose, somebody is really very keen, like, let's say I want to become a stream mentor, I want to be a Shotapanna, which everybody wants to be. What's the role of virya? It's conditioned. I can just walk the path, but it's already condition, I cannot actually do anything about it. What's the role of virya in this? And somebody who's never been exposed to Dhamma, what's the chance that he or she may actually get to listen to Dhamma? Because that also depends on the conditions. Conditions may not be right. He may be deaf, he may not come across Dhamma. Everything
That's
is
right.
conditioned. Is it by your karmas? Is it like, and somebody who has never done a Kushla karma, somebody who's never had a Kushla chitta, then, he's doomed for the rest of his life. Like, what's the role of effort here?
That's a purely hypothetical question. So everyone here has had similar experience in life, that for whatever reason, they somehow came across the Dhamma. It made sense to them because of having studied the Dhamma in previous lifetimes. And out of interest, they have continued to take every opportunity to share it and listen and share it. So for each of us, the level of developed understanding is different, and the extent to which there is more awareness and understanding from time to time is different, all by conditions. So there are a number of factors. Deeds done in the past is one factor. The level of accumulated understanding is another factor. And the all the karma that brings result in this lifetime is another factor by conditions. So
let's just
John,
speak a little.
sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, let's speak briefly about virya. So virya, effort or patience, it arises with almost every chitta and with every kusala and akusala chitta. So when there is the idea, I want to be a sotapanna or I want to develop understanding, is it kusala or akusala virya? Because if it's, I want to get this and this for myself, it just conditions more and more attachment and more frustration and feeling overwhelmed when it doesn't work out as I would like for me. So kusala virya has to develop with right understanding, being patient to understand what appears, no matter what is conditioned to not to arise. It's the opposite of I want, I'm trying, I'm going to have more kusala states, I want to get more understanding. This is the virya that is the wrong path. So there's, besides the right path, there's a wrong path with wrong understanding, wrong effort, wrong concentration, wrong awareness. So I want is not the understanding of Dhamma, it's not the development of kusala virya with understanding. Go ahead, Sukin.
Oh, just before
Yeah,
Sukin
said,
does, just
okay,
before,
okay.
sorry, Sukin, just before, I just want to add a brief comment on the Wirya one to Lena, that there is another mental factor called chanda, which is interest. And as I said, if understanding has been developed in past lives, there's an interest. So that when it's heard in this lifetime, it doesn't just go in one ear and out the other, but it's a condition for reflection and for realizing its value. And so that when an opportunity comes to listen again or to read something, that opportunity is followed up. So interest is there by conditions. If interest is there by conditions, we don't need to think of wirya in the sense of making an effort. Because as we've discussed, the extent to which there is going to be development in a single lifetime is dependent on so many conditions. Yeah, sorry, Sukin, yes.
Okay, no, you and Sarah just said much of what I wanted to say, but I'll just add, I wanted to give the example of you, Jonathan, coming here and taking part in these discussions, that there must be virya to come. I mean, rather than virya to do something else, to go on holiday or see a picture. So that is conditioned by accumulations, as Lena was saying, past karma. I think she meant by that she meant accumulations. So there must be accumulations of interest and understanding in the past that conditions the effort to listen, and effort that arises with understanding. So earlier she was talking about Pativeda, and in relation to that, how could there be Pativeda if there's no effort to get there or something to that effect? So it's the same. According to the level of understanding, how much understanding there is, that's how much you get from the Dhamma. So for people like John, it's enough for him to come to be interested in Dhamma, listen to it, and develop as much as possible. For another person, if the understanding is great, accumulated, it might be a condition for realization. So we can't say, but the point is that it's all just Dhammas. It's not conditioned by a self who decides to do anything. It's just when the conditions are right, it will happen, otherwise not.
Could I say something to Lena? I think we've got a fairly common background from Theravada, and Kama is only one Chetasika. It's Chetana. And in Theravada, we see Kama more as the whole story. So that's a big difference. That's why Sukheen, he noticed that it's accumulations. It's not all Kama. And also it helps, for example, when I'm talking about overwhelm, which I do feel sometimes also in moments that I bring it up. It's very much a focusing, and it helps to be more open-minded. And when you're asking about chances, that in the Dhamma, we're talking about the path to lasting aeons and aeons. So we all have had lives like, I don't know, an insect or a worm or a bird or, I don't know, dinosaur, where there were no chances of hearing Dhamma. So this life is only a very small part of the path. So when we're focusing about chances, as someone being deaf now, it's only one life. And when we're focusing on this not being fair, it's again atta, because the picture is so much bigger. Yeah, maybe it helps.
Yes, and the thinking about being overwhelmed, or the being interested or not interested, or having understanding or having those, these are all different habits and accumulations, not the result of karma. So seeing now, hearing now are the result of karma, but the thinking about what has happened, or the liking or the disliking, or the trying with right effort or wrong effort, these are the different habits, the different accumulated tendencies. So this is why it helps to understand a little bit about different realities and different conditions for different realities. Otherwise we think, oh, well, being overwhelmed or having all this disturbance is all a result of karma, but this is not the result of karma. It's the habit of thinking this way or that way.
Which you would call accumulations, habits. Yes.
The ignorance or the attachment now is a very deeply rooted, accumulated tendency that is the cause of all the difficulties in life. And as Ajahn was stressing right now, there can be the beginning of understanding those realities that experience and those that don't experience anything, because right from the beginning, there has to be the beginning of understanding of these different dhammas as not self, not my tendencies, not my habits, not my results of karma, just different kinds of realities, different namas and different rupas which don't experience anything, none of them belonging to me.
And if I may add, Lena, that we were talking about the development of understanding, and wait, I just got lost. No, I'll get back, sorry.
Maybe Ajahn would like to add a few comments at this stage then. Please, Ajahn.
While we're waiting for Ajahn, maybe I can add something.
Sure,
Can
go
you hear
ahead,
me?
Robert. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, there's an article by Intl.Dhamma, what is it, Be Here Now, that's on the internet, that he said that might be relevant. He said something like, you know, we've been around for a long time, as Chanti was saying, we've been in samsara for a long time. But if we go the wrong direction very fast, that's dangerous, you know, and a lot of people rush in to try to make quick progress. They want that sotapanna fruition, as you were saying, naturally. However, that's motivated by Lopa. So in his article, he said that it's better to have a few moments of genuine awareness in a life than many of the wrong type that are taking you in the wrong direction. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
If I may
Yes,
say, Robert
good
just
comment.
reminded me of what I wanted to say. And it's that earlier, Lena, you were talking about, you started off this with the thought that there's a lot of talking about Dhamma as against understanding, direct understanding. And what Sarah was trying to point out at first was that it's not just thinking about it, but the reminder that the Dhamma is now. So I hope you got that point, that it's all about understanding what is reality now, as against just thinking and forgetting that what's to be understood.
Sukin, you've switched off your mic, have you?
Oh, sorry. No, yeah. So the point is that it's not as you had the impression that we are encouraged to just think and think a lot. What we are encouraged, and as Sarah was trying to point out, is to understand that there's only this moment to understand, not just think in words, not think about what we've heard, not think in terms of what we've heard, but just being reminded about what's happening now, the seeing now, the hearing now, etc. And so, as Robert just said, that people talk about, wanting to be a Sotapanna, and you were talking about aiming to be a Sotapanna. So it's like people go to do things like meditate, go to meditation centers and all. I think what they forget is that it's with understanding, with more understanding, being reminded over and over again that there is only this moment to understand, that sati at the level of direct understanding rises at some point when the understanding is great. On the other hand, people who think that they have to go and make sati arise, they don't understand that the sati is conditioned by understanding. So it's the other way around. When the understanding is there, the sati of the level of satipatthana will be there. So it won't happen by trying to have sati. So the idea of direct understanding or aiming to become a sotapanna or pativeda, etc., is actually missing the point. And that's the wrong understanding at the intellectual level.
Thanks for that, Sukin. But no, I'm actually very clear about what I meant, but I possibly didn't put it across well. What I meant was, it's not a question of attainment, because if you're trying to attain something, you're actually going against the grain, because that kind of nullifies everything, because wanting, attachment, clinging, you're going back in the same circle, and the clinging is avidya, that is causing you to come back to samsara. But that's the chanda there. I'm talking of the chanda. We are all in this practice. Why? Because we, we do want, not wanting in that way, but we do want, everybody hopes that they would get nibbana soon. So it's not that you're aiming for it and that you want it or you're craving for it, but we are walking the path, and that is clear that this is the thing. And when Buddha says that practice as if your turban is on fire, what does he mean by practice? That practice is chanda. So that practicing is required. It's not that you're wanting something, but that practicing is required. So that even the sati sampajana, the practicing, the awareness, it's simple, but it's not easy. Like in the sense that awareness, to maintain and sustain the awareness in the present moment, that requires effort. So that effort is virya and chanda. So it's not with the craving, I have to be aware. It doesn't have to be over efforting. There has to be a balance between virya and with the chanda. But you have to make effort to be aware. Otherwise, all day long you'll be, the things are coming, thoughts are coming, you're dwelling in the thoughts, but you're not actually being aware of the thoughts. So a person has to remind oneself, yes, you have to be mindful of the fact. The mindfulness has to be practiced. I think my question was that it's not a question of that I want to be Shodapana. Yes, that's the chanda, definitely. That's why I'm on this path. I don't want to be coming back to the samsara again to go through, the rounds of misery again and again. And that's why we're walking this path. So I guess the point was how to, because everything appears to be conditioned, so it is conditioned by a lot of things, What can I do? I don't have any control over it. This is all conditioned, my coming into Dhamma, my practicing Dhamma. What is that, in conventional sense? So this is not the ultimate sense. I don't know how to address myself otherwise. All these 5 khandas, whatever you want to call it, all these dhammas, what can this, what can this rupa do? What can we do to, kind of, to make maximum, not the gains, but how to kind of walk more diligently on the path, how to make sure that you're not wasting this precious human life. You're making most of it. So not without craving, but you just want to walk the path diligently. You don't want to be wasting this life, So where is that chanda? So it's just a chanda. It's not a, it's not a desire. It's a, you want to follow the path. So if everything is conditioned, if everything is going to happen because, this is arising, then what role I have? From my point of understanding, from Theravada point of view, I was under the impression that the suffering is arising, that is conditioned. I can't help it. The pain is arising, I can't help it. But yes, I can help the second arrow. The suffering is there, the pain is there, but pain is inevitable, but not the suffering. So I have to make effort to be aware of it. I have to, I have to become friends with the pain. I have to become friends with it because it's the Dhamma arising. So, but I don't really have any control over the suffering. I don't, over the pain, but I do have some control over the suffering. So when you talk about this path, where does the control come, in the sense, how do I walk the path more diligently so that it's not a question of reaching the end goal, but yes, you certainly want to, you end the misery, like
Lena, there's
think-
only one thing: hearing and considering the Dhamma. That's all. Hearing and considering the Dhamma, like we're doing now, and you can hear it and you can read it, and then it's up to Panya. It's not up to I. There is no control.
And Lena, no matter how much one tells oneself that, okay, I understand that the wanting is attachment, but I don't want in that way. I just want to know how to make effort to do things rightly so that I don't have to be reborn again. That's just a more subtle level of attachment. One is deceiving oneself that, okay, I'm not going to grossly have greed, but I also want to have a level of control. I also think it requires a level of input from me to get this. There has to be, I have to put some effort in. It's just attachment in another form. So
that's
the
what I'm
important
saying.
thing to remember. Sorry?
No input is required, no effort is required. That's what I'm saying. No input or no effort is required. You just be aware of the things the way it is. You don't actually try to kind of meditate and go deeper down, and you can actually see that, this is all
the right effort of the path is not the conventional idea of effort. The right effort of the path, like the right awareness of the path, is, as Shakin said, the effort and the awareness that co-arises together with the moment of understanding. And so, no, to think that I have to put in a certain kind of effort is only a matter of it being the right kind of effort is again missing the point that all realities are conditioned equally, even awareness and understanding. So we come back to the point that it has to be allowed to arise naturally by conditions, and it can't happen more quickly than those conditions permit. someone else wants to come in, and then Ajahn will speak, I think.
Lena, sorry.
It seems like there is some understanding what we say about anything like Dhamma and Viriya and so on. But what Buddha said about that? Can we understand the meanings of what the word is said? Or we can think up in our own way, or listen to the wise word, the enlightened one. What did he say about this, about everything, about every word? For example, Dhamma or Viriya and so on. Did Buddha say anything about it? Or we can think about it by oneself from just hearing some words only from him. But the meaning of it, the truth of it, is so far, very deep, very subtle. That's why it cannot be directly understood, what he said, instantly. But it takes time to consider each word, because each word from the one who has enlightened cannot be changed at all. That's why, what are we talking about now? What Buddha said, all Dhammas, what is meant by Dhamma, all Dhammas are anatta. What's the meaning of anatta? We can think that, oh, everything is uncontrollable and so on, and that is anatta. But he taught more than that, just to develop the understanding of that which is now so very deep and so very subtle. And when we talk about viriya, it seems like it's not subtle at all. But actually, all dhammas are anatta. What does it mean? Is viriya I or someone or something, or is it a reality? We can know when it's there. Patient, viriya, but not understanding the absolute truth that Buddha has enlightened. No one there at all. But there are conditions to condition any reality which appears now. No one can do that. So can anyone have right understanding, realizing the truth at will, or try the other way, or effort the whole night to try to understand it, or to directly experience it without any understanding of the truth stage by stage at all? For example, there is seeing right now. Everyone knows. You can ask a child or anyone what seeing is, it says now. But what about the understanding of the others from the Buddha, the enlightenment? So he said, all dhammas is all anatta. That's why even seeing right now, which says, it's not me, the meaning of anatta, not anyone. It does not belong to anyone. No one can change, no one can do anything, because it's already there by conditions. Can anyone make seeing arise? So can anyone make viriya arise? But when it's there, I am having viriya, I is there, instead of understanding what is meant by Dhamma and anatta. So it depends on how much confidence of the truth to understand what we think that we understand enough, or no understanding without the teachings of the truth, the absolute truth, even viriya. Why some have viriya and some do not have viriya at all? By conditions. Even for oneself, of you yourself, or me myself, cannot condition viriya to arise when it is not viriya. Just be lazy and so on. See, by conditions. Who would like to have laziness? All depends on conditions. Even right now, who can do? To seeing. It's there and gone instantly. And that's the meaning of no thing and no one. Because it appears so very shortly. Who knows? Until Buddha taught about the processes of experiencing an object to be object of considering about the truth of it, or about the truth of what is there now. Is there viriya now, listening to the word of the teachings? Is there viriya now to consider carefully the truth of it, whether it's true or not? Because everyone can talk about viriya, and everyone knows that sometimes there is viriya, but it's me. But what Buddha said, no one there at all. And how to understand clearly, to directly experience the arising and the falling away of viriya. Because in life, everyone can understand that it changes every moment. Never arise again. Yesterday cannot be today. What was there yesterday? Completely gone. Never to arise at all in samsara. Is that not true? So is there understanding enough of viriya? As Buddha said, anatta, no one there. All depends on condition. Otherwise, whatever appears now cannot be there at all. So just have confidence of the truth of whatever is there. It's just one's own thinking about viriya and kamma and so on. But Buddha taught about each one in details, the characteristic, the function, the conditions for whatever arises, to consider whether is there anyone or all are dhammas and all anatta. Because seeing gone at moment when it's there, and there's no understanding of seeing, there is the idea for sure, I see, because no one there at all. And there is the idea of seeing only when it arises and experience. So the reality which just arises and experience is taken for I when there's no one around and when there's no understanding of the characteristic which not I, but it sees, and it is it. Seeing cannot be hearing, cannot be thinking, cannot be like or dislike, cannot be wrong understanding or right understanding. That's why the more understanding of the truth that Buddha had enlightened, the more respect to the truth. No one can change it at all. And that is viriya, which is parami, to develop the understanding, to eradicate, to let go the idea of self until there's no condition for it to arise at all. The enlightenment of the truth eradicate all wrong understanding about whatever is there as I or mine. Because the truth is that even just a moment ago, completely gone. And who knows what would be the next one, unexpectedly. So when we use the term, we don't know what will happen. It includes next moment too. Who knows? And is that I who can control, who can have viriya to have it arise or to have it to be such and such? All these words are the words of truth to understand whether it's true or not. And this is the only way, not to try to experience it, but it's now there. Why not understanding it as one tries to let go the idea of self? So what's the point of doing something to get what? What for? Doing what? And who's doing? And what's the result of doing? Consider it. Be truthful to the truth. What's the word of truth? And what is my word? I try, otherwise it cannot be succeeded. But what, without understanding, can there be the enlightenment of the truth of anything at any time, even right now? So just consider what is true and what is not true, and who's the Buddha and who am I? Did he say anything for anyone to just do without understanding? Otherwise, he didn't teach for 45 years in detail so much that there can be the understanding from hearing, considering, on and on and on, to let go of wrong understanding. For example, what is viriya? How come? Can anyone make it arise? Are there conditions to have Riya sometime that can be known? But actually, Buddha taught in details what time or what kind of citta do not arise with Viriya, or Viriya does not arise with such and such citta. Who knows? But why do we understand the benefit, the value of knowing or understanding that? To let go the idea of I will do or I can do anything. Because actually, if there is nothing arise at all, can there be anyone? But what now arising? Who knows? Moment when it arises and moment it falls away. But Buddha enlightened the truth. So what did he say about it? Not we just think that I will have virya and so on. But he said that what is there is conditioned. Otherwise, nothing can arise at all. And condition is not me, and that which is conditioned to arise is not me either, because it's gone instantly, unknowingly. So why do we go to somewhere and do something to understand what? Because understanding can understand the truth of what is there anytime, but not by oneself, try so hard, but to understand each word, to let go the idea of self. For example, this moment, if there's no hearing, considering, beginning to understand the truth, everyone must think, I see for sure, from birth, I, all the time, not understanding the truth of what is there. We think that we understand. But what about Buddha? His understanding. And one's understanding. And what did he say about Dhamma? What is Dhamma? Is Dhamma I? Or what we take for I is that which sees and hears by conditions. Like this, like pleasant or unpleasant by conditions. But when there's no understanding, sense is there and it experiences. So there is ignorance at that very moment, not understanding the truth that it's just a reality, conditioned to be such, and then gone. No one at all. So how can there be I can do or I try? Because its reality is conditioned, no matter its laziness or virya. So whatever in life is there, presenting all the time, but no understanding of the truth, that no one there to do it, to make it, to try to have it at all. It's there by conditions. That's why Buddha taught about Miccha Titi, wrong understanding, and Sammatiti, wrong understanding. What is I? No, because understand wrongly, or understand rightly, by conditions. Thinking about one who tries to understand the truth without any understanding of what is there now. So what is the truth that one tries so hard to have it? What is that? And what about this moment? If there's no understanding of seeing right now, can there be understanding of seeing without listening carefully and let go the idea of self? In daily life, naturally, because the idea of self is there so very deep, very strong, accumulated. That's why it can condition moment of ignorance and attachment all day. And even oneself tries so hard to let go or to understand. Why not now? Because the future hasn't come yet, and the past is gone. And what is there? No matter it arises and falls away, but there must be a reality by conditions. No one can stop the condition for seeing or thinking or like or dislike at all. It's there from day to day, from moment to moment. So understand, as Buddha taught, Dhamma is not self, it's no one. And what is Dhamma? The reality which arises and experience an object. What are they? Seeing, hearing, viriya, and so on. All are dhammas, wholesome or unwholesome, by conditions. No one there at all. So right understanding, understand what is there as it is, stage by stage, without hearing and considering. Can there be anything to be known as sitting, trying so hard to know what, and not understanding what is there now? And who knows what would be next moment of in the future, like tomorrow. All are unexpected. But the understanding of the unexpected reality is not there. So the idea of I try so hard to do this and that, as I understand or I think I understand. But understanding can understand what is heard. And there must be sanya, which remembers the meaning of that word to condition moment of right understanding when it's wise considering. Just of any word of the teaching, like Dhamma, say, Dhamma is Dhamma. The Buddha said that Dhamma is I, or he said all Dhammas are anatta. What is true? And it covers everything because all Dhammas, it means that there's no one at all. Whatever is there must be a Dhamma, a reality, different ones by conditions, that's all. And it has to arise when the condition for its arising is ready, like this moment, any moment. No one there who can arrange, who can try, or who can make anything arise. At moment of virya, right understanding can understand virya as no one and no self at all. But when there's no understanding, I'm trying to have more virya, otherwise I cannot this and that. See, is it right or is it wrong? If it's right, try now, have virya now. Why wait? Is it not enough? What can it understand? What is the point of trying to do? To do what? For what? For no understanding? Or for thinking that experiencing something different from this moment? No understanding of even this moment or any moment. When there's understanding right now. That's why right understanding begins now to understand what's meant by Dhamma. Is it Dhamma? Seeing, is it a Dhamma? Is it a reality? Can seeing itself remember? Remember is not seeing. To understand more about the truth of whatever is there as it is, not to be anyone or anything. They are different realities. And the two main difference is one arises to experience. One does not arise. One does not experience anything. It arises to be as it is, hardness, sweet or bitter, beautiful sound or harsh sound, and so on. By conditions, all by conditions. After hearing this, there can be more reflecting on what is there by conditions, unexpectedly. Why does people think this way and the other think another way? What is right and what is wrong? Wise considering to know the meaning of the word. No one. What is the seeing, arising and falling away? No one. Hearing is a reality condition when there is the ear or the ear sense or ear base for hearing to arise when there is something, when sound impinges on it, when it's time to experience such pleasant sound or such unpleasant sound by conditions again. Buddha taught about everything and conditions for whatever is there arising and falling away. To understand the truth. It's not there anymore. Just think about it as it's there, but in truth, it's not there at all. Everything gone after it has a reason, it falls away instantly, never to return. Sunyata, anatta, together. Understand each word of the Buddha, stage by stage, little by little, and that is the development of understanding the truth. Otherwise, it's just not arise to understand whatever is there as it is, impossible. And understanding, no matter in the Buddha's time, those Savaka followers who had developed Parami enough, reading about that Parami, not just no understanding at all, just hearing about this and try to do that. It's impossible. Because otherwise, when there is understanding, there can be understanding of what is there now, no matter very little, and on until it's strong enough to be firm enough to let go the idea of self. Otherwise, when there's ignorance, there must be attachment, because not understanding that it's not there anymore at all. So thinking about panya, right understanding, it's not I who have panya, or the moment when someone tries to do something with the reality, viriya, can they be that moment? But when it's there, no understanding that it's not me or anyone, it's conditioned to be wrong viriya or right viriya, according to right understanding or wrong understanding. No one there at all. Try to find out what is there and read or study the Buddha's word to understand what he said about that. Did he say that viriya is yours and you better try to have more viriya? Not at all. Otherwise, what's the meaning of his word or dhammas are anatta? Can you change that? Can you say that it's not for everything? Impossible. So it depends on wise considering of what is heard. For example, seeing right now, no one there. Is that true or not? No one can make it arise. Is it true or not? It's there and then it's gone. Is it true or not? Because it's not the same seeing at all. What impinges on it, on the eye base, condition just the moment of seeing that only. And that which is there, arising and falling away too, everything which is conditioned to arise, falls away because what condition it's arising is only condition the arising of that object. And then when it has a reason, fallen away instantly. Is that not true? Just consider the truth. What is true? Can anyone try? I can do, I can try. Or by conditions. What is the great understanding of the Buddha? And what about one's own, what we take for understanding? But it's me. And what did Buddha say? All dhammas are anatta. That's why I study each word to understand the subtlety, the profoundness of what is there. It arises and falls away. Who knows? Ignorance cannot know because there is attachment to that as I see, I hear, I think, I try. Everything is taken for I when nobody is there. And it's the moment of experiencing. The tree, the flower, the bed cannot experience anything at all. It doesn't know. But the reality which arises to experience, there are many different ones by conditions. That's why Chitta is a reality and Cetasikas, each different one, 52, are not citta at all, but they arise together by conditions, saha, chata, paccaya, and so on. That's why I understand the truth. Whatever arises depends on conditions. When there's no understanding of conditions, because of not understanding the conditions from whatever arises, there is the idea when it's there as I. Is it right or wrong? And what did Buddha say? Didn't he know everything? Even the reality right now or right then or any time. So what did he say about this? About moment of I try, what is that? Laziness or effort? Khanti and impatient. See, it's conditioned just to arise and falls away instantly by way of processes that Buddha enlightened and taught about it. The first moment of life, the second moment, the moment of seeing, the process of that which experiences hearing, and gone. It's like the stream of Pawanka, and then there must be a moment of experiencing our reality, and then the stream of Pawanka again. So where's the I? When there's no understanding, I sleep, I wake up, I have my food, I like it, I go somewhere. What is that? See, Buddha taught that it's moment of sanya, marks and remembers whatever is there. That's why there can be panyati. It's made known because of its nimitta, different ones, different colors, different shape and form, and the idea of self is there. But actually, in truth, each reality is different. So, is there I, or someone, or something, or different realities by condition, arising and falling away so rapidly, unknown, and ignorance is the conditioned attachment to that. Even some sound so sudden, so very quick, disappear. There is the idea of what is that, taking it for something because of not understanding that it's completely gone, never to arise again. And what is true from the very beginning to the end. So what's the point of going somewhere? Try to know what. Is it not the same as the reality, which sees, which hears, which thinks? Different conditions, different moments, different ones. Is it true or not true? And what is not true? If Riya does not arise, can there be the idea that I can do or I try? But when Virya is there, what else? When there's no understanding, it's me. By the accumulation of ignorance and attachment. But right understanding is the beginning of understanding the truth of it from hearing, considering, until it's strong enough. It can be conditioned for direct understanding what is there. When what is there is there. Is it not true and what is not true. But seeing is not self is so true. It's gone, and no one can make it arise. And what
So-
is as it is, until hearing and considering the words of the truth from the enlightened one. Please.
I was just going to say, Lena, it's so deep and so subtle, far more subtle than we ever imagined the Buddha's teachings, but stay with it and the Dhamma will be the healer for all the many issues that you've mentioned before. But it takes courage and a lot of patience, and all the terms you've mentioned before, the sati, the sampajanya, the virya, the chanda, these are all conditioned dhammas, not I that is aware or I that understand, not I that practices or not this practice. Bhavana is the development of understanding, and it is the understanding that lights up the truth, but it has to develop naturally, not I doing anything. So this is the real disease, the real sickness, the idea, the fantasy that I can practice, I can be aware, I can make an effort. And this is what leads to all the difficulties and disturbances in life. So be patient, but not you or I. Understand the value of letting patience develop with understanding, effort developing with understanding, sati developing with understanding by hearing and considering the very deep meaning of dhammas as anatta, which Ajahn has been talking about. And it will totally transform your life through the development of understanding and the gradual letting go of the idea of I practicing or doing something or making an effort, so that one can live naturally with your family, your daughter, your those around you, living your life naturally, working, taking care of your health, all these things just easily and naturally, not I trying to force something that cannot be forced. And we appreciate your patience to listen. So please join us again each time.
Is there anything you would like to say, Kundina? About the truth?
Sorry, Ajahn, that was a question for
Nina.
Who think of I, or who have the very strong clinging to the thinking about I. It can be one's own question to find the answer. What about the past idea? And what about after hearing the words of the Buddha? Just one word to understand clearly, firmly, that it's the Buddha's word. Or did he say something different? From all dhammas are anatta. If anyone say, the person who understands the truth knows that it's not right. Where's the I right now? If there's no seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, the reality which experiences an object arising by conditions. Where's the I? And there is sound now. Is it I hear? Or there must be a reality which arises and experiences sound. The reality which can experience an object is a reality. And the chief of experiencing, just experience the object clearly, is what we say, or what we Buddha called citta, not cetasika. Even the experiencing is different as citta and many cetasikas. Condition many citta to be different from one to one. Seeing is not hearing, it's not thinking. And I think that it's time